I came out of a very, very long-term career at the Massachusetts Port Authority, the Airport Authority in Boston. And in fact, I was there for 35 years in the same company and doing the same kind of work. It was, I was involved with design construction of development projects by tenants at all of our facilities. So I did that with different job titles, but really the same kind of work over time. I was very satisfied, obviously, with the job. If staying at a job for 35 years, something was going right. I did like it. And I knew that I was approaching a time where I could retire, but I wasn't really thinking, A, when that would be, or B, what I would exactly do after. I remember sitting and looking at the number 35, and something said inside me, do you really want to see 36 next year? Is that really what you ought to be doing? And I heard a voice that just kind of said, no, that's enough. It's probably time to explore some other aspects of my life. So I began to feel ready to do that. And I was also made much more ready because a couple years before, I had decided to go back to graduate school in an area that was completely different from design and construction. And that's the area of spirituality and spiritual direction. I've always been interested in religion and how people relate to the ultimate and how they practice their spirituality. I looked around and found a wonderful program at Merrimack College in North Andover and enrolled in the graduate spirituality program. I was part of the first cohort there. So I had already been in grad school, already beginning to proceed toward, really I was just doing it for the learning, not necessarily intending a career. But when the other factors, converged and I realized that I was not far off from graduating from this program, it seemed to me that it was time to start thinking about doing something with that and probably starting a business. So that's really the overview of how I got to the beginning of this new life as a solopreneur. And I said spirituality, and the look on their faces, they just didn't quite know how to cope with that. It just wasn't something they would have expected from someone in the very left brain style profession that I was working in that engineering department. So I just said, it's one side of me that I don't often bring to work, but it's important to me. So they got it eventually. My identity as a working person really was turned upside down. For all those years, I was very proud to call myself a company woman, right? I work for a large bureaucratic organization. I'm one of the few people you'll ever hear say, I love bureaucracy, because the agency served me very well. I understood it, I got it, it did good work, and I enjoyed it. And I was part of this whole system, a whole tribe of people working on the same kinds of big infrastructure projects. And it was fun, it was meaningful to me. I had never really thought about moving on to be, a proprietor of a business, and likely to be a very small business. So that's a change which I'm still getting used to. I'm starting to use that language, entrepreneur, solopreneur, as I heard. And it wasn't the feelings of the transition. If you gave me a list of feelings, I could probably check every single box on the list that I felt as I went. I have been amazed to find the people who were already in my life when I made the transition, who are supporting me in ways that I never expected. I felt, fortunately, I've really felt as I left my job at Massport and went into this retirement and new business time, my mind was saying, call on people, like just ask people for help if you need it, and whatever that might be, practical help, or help with starting a business, or just sort of emotional support. And I began to share that I needed help, and my friends definitely stood up to do so. But amazingly, also, I've had a priority of staying open to meeting new people who might help me. And it's sort of hard to believe that as soon as I stepped into that hallway and was making the transition, didn't I start to meet a whole bunch of new people who were in the same space that I was, who were interested in sharing, interested in support. So suddenly I'm meeting and being referred to chaplains, ministers, counselors, people who do design work, people who are studying spirituality, people who design rituals. Like suddenly all the things that I wanted to do with my own company, there are these resources just showed up. So I don't know, is that the universe helping? I think so. Always always scanning the environment and being open to making connections that you wouldn't necessarily think at first, but then turn out to be very helpful.